Time for another intermission. It's like the meat in between the sandwich for those who eat meat and for those who are vegan, vegetarian, and all other kinds of expressions that I really can think of right now. Don't worry about it, okay? No meat is okay if you don't like meat. For those who like meat, have some meat. I just had some meat. Sausages, that is. So we're just making a fire. Finally here back on my playground. This is the fire pit where it all started 50 episodes ago. So this is an intermission for episode 50 on the podcast, which is Anchor, FM, iTunes, Google, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you can find podcasts. You can find PITSTOP Pioneers, Tom Seckinger, however you prefer, and you can just tune in. So 50 episodes. Thank you. On the social media, I'm a little further ahead. I'm almost caught up. I know it's a little confusing, but maybe not. Maybe it's just me. So you're wondering, okay, 50 episodes on my podcast, and maybe you're watching on social media, Instagram, Facebook, or my YouTube channel. And you're like, what? What? There's more? There's more that I haven't seen? Because maybe you haven't started from the very beginning. So there's still time. You know, if you've been enjoying my videos on social media, you can also tune in to just do the podcast, the audio version. There's also a video version on Spotify. I know it's a lot of information, but you'll get to it. So however you watch it or listen to it, whatever you prefer, keep doing what you're doing. But if you have missed some, maybe you want to start at the beginning. Start at the first one I released 2 years ago, something like that, is called Train Tracks, and then take it from there. So thanks for watching my stuff, listening to my stuff. Sometimes, you know, you're doing something like this and you wonder, why do I do this? Should I keep doing it? And that's normal. I think it's human. I mean, if you don't have those thoughts, I think you're not honest. And as I, promote my podcast, my videos, and say, hey, this is raw, off the cuff, and always from the heart, I might as well be honest and transparent. And I've been trying to do this, and I want to keep trying to do this. Not even trying. I just want to be who I am, okay? And my thoughts and my processing and how I look at the world. And it's a beautiful thing. I just explained this to somebody to encourage them. Hey, why don't you check out my podcast? I'm not trying to, hold on. I'm trying to promote it, but not to promote it. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm usually, it's easier for me to promote somebody else and somebody else's stuff than my own thing. But sometimes I just need to say, hey, what about me? It's not that I'm that important, but what about my stuff? And here we are. This is why I do some intermissions, some promo clips, some things in between. And I was asking a question, why am I doing this? And it's human. So yeah, sometimes you hit a bump in the road, and it's not even that you run out of ideas. I have plenty of things that I've recorded that I have not even released yet. And sometimes there's a time factor that comes with that, or a season. And, something's going on in the world, and it just happened to be at that time that I record something. And then if you don't post it right away, you miss that window. And so it happens sometimes. I post something and I feel like, that's still good, but it's like in a completely different time frame, or a year later, or a half a year later, or even a week later. So I'm became very careful to say, like, today is Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, whatever day it is, because that might be the case. And then by the time it's released, might be another season, might be winter or fall. Right now it's spring, just saying. And so I do have those thoughts once in a while, because it's not that it's, takes a lot of effort. Obviously, there's some work attached to it that you need to put into it, that I've been learning and optimize and get better at it. But at times, just life happens. And, this is something I enjoy doing, but I have these thoughts, quite honest sometimes. But what helped me recently, next to obviously those thoughts come and go, this is life. We all struggle at times, and we question what we're doing, why we're doing it. Hopefully we do, because sometimes we need to analyze. Sometimes we need to take a step back and look at everything. It's like, wait a minute, is this direction I still want to go? Or do I need to change something? Do I need to adjust, adapt? For me, like I started with the videos, and somebody recommended to me, hey, why don't you do a podcast as well and put this on a podcast platform? And I thought it's a good idea, but it took me, quite honestly, over a year to get around to it. And it could have been very simple and easy and just do it, but then there's stuff that gets in the way. And this is like, as we process, as we, need to figure out what is the right direction, what is the right cause of action, what is the thing that we need to do right now. Might be a good idea, but it might not be the right time. And so saying all of this would help me, really help me, next to everything else where I have a thought, and thought comes or feelings come and they go. Today is today, tomorrow is another day. And but what really helped me is like to leave something behind. And I had a friend that told me the other day, and it's actually not the first one, it's another friend that did the same thing. And he said, hey, think about this, like years from now, your children, my children that is, will have something to look back on years from now, or even after I'm gone, and can look at this stuff or listen to this stuff. What was their dad going through? What was he processing? How did he look at this situation? Why was he thinking about that subject? Or what were his thoughts about such and such? And where was he in life a year ago? And those are interesting thoughts. And that makes me realize, you know what, this is good. This is good. For whatever reason that I started this, there's reasons to that. Obviously, I felt I had something to say, had something to share. And sometimes I question those things. That's quite normal too. Not because I'm unaware, or not because I'm scared, or not because I feel inadequate. It's simply because sometimes you just wonder, what the heck? What the heck? But then, if you get some feedbacks and people, friends say, hey, I listened to this, or I enjoyed your video, or, that part that you mentioned, and it spoke to me, it said something to me. Like saying this, like when I started to write poetry years ago, which is another story how I got around to that. And then I realized, as I shared some of the poetry or released some of my stuff, or even music, or rap stuff, people give feedbacks that they say, hey, I really can identify. I really can relate. Thanks for saying this, because I've been thinking the same thing. I just didn't know how to describe it. I didn't know how to say it. But it speaks to me. That's why we have songs. That's why we have poetry. That's why music is beautiful. That's why we have art. That's why we have, even podcasts, different subject, different themes of where we can engage. And actually somebody has the courage or, to step out and talk about certain things that are difficult, that are vulnerable, that are, maybe normally you don't talk about because everybody thinks it, but nobody wants to say it, if you know what I mean. And that's why, some of my friends that have podcasts, that have, YouTube channels, and even if they don't, I encourage them, I commend them. It's like, hey, thanks for doing this. Thanks for being a voice out there of where you are in life and, your struggles, your trials, your tribulations, and your glory stories, it's everything. I was at a place just recently, and there were guys sharing their stories. And it made me realize there's a facade. We all have a facade, and it doesn't even need to be negative. It's just like we need to cope. We need to present ourselves a certain way, and some are honest with it, and some of us can't, or it's too painful, it's too hurtful, or you don't want somebody to know how you really feel and what's going on, and that's all right. But then at times, it's really helpful to see that actually, if you see behind the facade, that's why I love stories, and the stories of like somebody's journey. Because we see a certain picture and we think like, man, this person has it all together because ABC. And the way they talk, the way, their accomplishments, their successes, whatever that means. But then we forget the story behind it. We forget like, how did they get there? Or where are the bumps? Where are the challenges? Where are the trials? And they listen to me. We all have them. Each one of us. Sometimes, we want to walk in somebody else's shoes and think that's much better, or we compare and feel like, oh, if this person, in this phase of life is there and I'm not. I wish I would be there too. But then, here's the thing. This person might think the same thing literally, and I'm not kidding. This is true. I've figured this out because I've talked to people. This person might think the same thing about you. And you're like, what? And this person like, what? And it's like, that's why we shouldn't compare. You are you, and him is him, or her is her. That's their journey, their story, and it's beautiful. And we need to encourage each other to keep going, to keep walking, whatever that journey is, whatever that path is. I would, put it that way. Whatever that path is that God puts you on, walk it. That's your path. It's not my path. But, there's parallels. Sometimes, they interject or interject, whatever. I keep saying this wrong, but you know what I mean. They cross paths. Let's say that. And then you hopefully have a vulnerable moment or an honest moment, and you can talk about, in a place like this, when I get some of my friends out, we talk about stuff. Not because it's forced, not because it's like, you should share this now because I want to know. No, because you feel safe. You feel at peace. You feel, I'm hurt. I can share this. It's safe. And it's beautiful if somebody then listens to your story, to your trials, tribulations, to your challenges, what you're facing in life, and also how you went through it. How did you come out on the other side? How did that go for you? What are the things that made the changes? How did you cope? How did you keep walking? Because some of us have, no, not some of us, all of us have things in our lives that are unpleasant, things that are hard, things that are challenging. Maybe right now you're watching and you're going through a very challenging phase. And I want to encourage you, just keep walking. I've been trying to do that, not simply because I want to be, like one of those, what do you call it, encouraging people. I can't forget the name right now. It's like this motivational stuff. Motivation is great, but this is more than motivation. This is going to the heart. This is going to the roots. This is going to the soul. This is going to the nitty gritty. This is going to break it down to the essentials, to where the root is. And that's where we need to be. And that's where, from there, we need to rebuild or restructure or reform. And we all need help at times. We can't, I just learned this where I was not too long ago. Nobody's an island. Sometimes we want to be. It's like, shut everybody out. And this is just me. But no, we need each other. And we need to hear those things of encouragement, words of encouragement, words of like, hey, I understand where you're at. Or just, hey, where you're at right now, I get it. I've been in a similar place, maybe not the same. Sometimes even it's very similar. And then, it gives strength. It gives encouragement if okay, I'm not the only one. That's why behind the facade, these stories, mainly when you listen, you realize you're not alone. You're going through this. You had this experience in your life. How did you get through this? And for me, I just, want to end with this. This is all stuff I actually didn't plan to talk about, but it's good. It helps in my journey walking with God, what the path that God has set for me. And I'm aware that He has put people on this path, in the past, in the present, and in the future. And I want to be there to receive from those that He set in my path where I need encouragement, where I need somebody to tell me the truth, somebody to be straightforward with me and say, hey, this is what it is, or it's hurt, it's painful, but it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Just keep walking. Take one day at a time. It's going to be okay. And at the time you hear this, you don't feel okay, but it will be okay. I look back on my path and some of the stages that I walked. I feel like where I was then and where I am now is a huge difference. And somebody told me back then, it's like, it's going to be okay. And I looked at them, was like, yeah, right. How do you know? And then a few weeks later, or months later, or even years later, I looked back and I said, you know what? This person was right. It was okay. It's okay now. That segment in my life, or that, theme that I'm walking through or struggling with, or need to just, contend with and come out on the other side. And so that's why I can say that to somebody else and say, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. I hear you. I'm with you. I'm here for you. And even that, sometimes we want to give advice. Sometimes we want to bring the right words of encouragement. And that's good. And sometimes we find that, especially if we walk that path and you have a right to speak. But sometimes we just need to be present. Sometimes we just need to listen, or somebody to listen to us. And that's the hard part, because, you know, there's so much stuff out there that want to give us advice. This is how you do it. You just need to do that. And it's in Christianity, it's in faiths, or in faith, but also in other places where we're like, oh, you just need to do ABC and it's going to be all right. And sometimes those formulas don't work because your path is individual. You know, your path is not my path, but I can empathize and I can identify maybe, and I can relate. And that's why I'm doing this. That's why, next to leaving a legacy behind for my kids and whoever, my friends and family, I want to do this. I want to be an encourager. I've always been like this, and I want to keep doing this. No matter, you know, I'm going to talk about this in another episode, but to even be an encourager when you need encouragement, that's a whole nother story. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. 50 episodes. If you haven't checked out the ones that I released on the podcast, check them out. Maybe there's something in it. Normally they're short. This one is 16 minutes. I just kept talking, and here we are. But hey, that's okay. It's my show and it's my intermission, so I can do that. So people, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being on this journey with me. I hope this helps. If you ever want to write a feedback, if you ever want to get back to me, feel free to do that as well. I can't wait to do my next one. And thanks for keep walking and keep walking and talking and listening and watching. This is my perspective. Bye-bye. Thank you.